Oh, honestly unbalanced.
I'm back.
You're back, yay! We're going to leave it in. Let's just start again. Welcome, August. Thank you so much for being here today and chatting with me. So where did it begin? Because we were just chatting backstage, as it were, and you said that you were an air hostess for 20 years and you hated gardening.
Yes.
So how did you find gardening to be your next career move?
I mean, it was a bit of a roller coaster, really, and I had no idea that this kind of journey was going to happen and gardening would come into my life. And I would say, if you sort of said to me now, 5 years ago, that I was going to be a gardener, I would have laughed you down the aisle with my tea and coffee pot. I'd been like, absolutely not. I don't do gardening. So it's, I think when you find your passion in life and you kind of connect and that thing just lights you up from inside, I think that to me is the biggest gift in the world.
Absolutely.
And I was really lucky to plant my first seed, watch that grow, and that moment that first seed burst through the soil was like absolutely mind-blowing. It was like looking, because I didn't grow food when I was a child. My mum was single parent, you know, we very much lived on ready meals, and you know, she didn't have time to be cooking all these wonderful home-cooked meals and stuff. So I didn't garden as a kid. So I suppose when I first started growing, it was like looking at it through a child's eyes, and I just thought it was amazing. And then the moment you then go into the garden and pick the food that you've grown, that's just a whole nother incredible feeling. It's like, you know, you go to the supermarkets, you buy your food, but to actually pick it from your garden, that just takes it to a whole nother level. And that's where I feel really passionate about connecting people and getting people to feel like I do about growing food. And obviously, by growing your own food, you're reducing your carbon emissions, and it's a massive impact on the planet. So I think to me, it's just an absolute no-brainer.
Well, I tell you, I'm feeling so inspired straight away. I'm so happy we're chatting because honestly, Adam and I moved to Surrey about 4 years ago now, which is where I'm from. We moved from London, where obviously there's not, you know, loads of green space around or gardens. And I've said to him from the start, I really want to grow my own fruit and vegetables. And there's a beautiful patch waiting for me out in the back, and I've literally done nothing.
Oh my goodness.
So for an absolute beginner who, I wouldn't say I hate gardening, I've just never really actually gone for it or done anything about it, but I love being outside. Obviously we've got a beautiful garden. So for someone like me who is a complete beginner, where's the best place to start?
I mean, the main thing is to just get started, because you learn as you go, and the biggest gift you will get are the mistakes. So every single mistake you make is what will push you forward to learning and educating yourself. If everything goes swimmingly in your first year and all your cabbages grow and all your lettuce is absolutely perfect, it's going to be like, oh, this is great, but what have you learned? You planted a seed, but you've not educated yourself on that journey. So I would say don't be scared, because all the failures are the bits where you're going to learn.
Love that.
But it's all about starting with the soil. The soil is life. It is absolutely the basis to everything that you do, because that's the thing that's going to feed and nourish your vegetables, which in turn will nourish you. So as long as you've got a good healthy soil, which that's a whole subject and 5 hours in itself, that's the basis for you to get started, and then everything else falls into place.
Okay. I've heard someone said to me, just go to your local forest and get some soil from the forest and then take that back to your garden and use that to fertilize
I think that's
to grow
kind
things.
Of like, so you could, that's about more sort of composting. So you would take different elements, add that to your compost. You're creating a whole indigenous species of different microbes and organisms, and then you're going to get a healthier soil, but not necessarily just go into a forest. It probably wouldn't really work. I'd love to say it would.
Sounds great, doesn't it?
Get your trailer, go
hug
off
a tree.
to the forest, then you get arrested, and then it all goes downhill. But maybe the garden centre might be a good place.
All right, start there. Is it true that there are antidepressant qualities in soil?
Oh my goodness, like to me, it's changed my whole life.
Really?
I used to have a lot more anxiety. I mean, obviously I was traveling all over the world for 20 years. I didn't know where I was half the time, because I'd be in one hotel room, another hotel room, and I'd get on board and I'd feel anxious, and I'd sometimes lock myself in the toilet crying because I didn't want to go away. And since I've left that environment to actually do good, to grow things and educate people on a daily basis, it's, you know, I don't have that. And if I do feel, you know, overwhelmed, if I feel anxiety, or have it, I do have down moments like everybody does, but I then think, right, I'm going to go outside, I'm going to do some weeding, I'm going to do some gardening, and I don't know what it is about that process of weeding, getting your hands dirty and growing things, creating something, making something beautiful. At the end of the day, I can look at a patch that I've weeded and think, oh my God, I've achieved something today, rather than sitting there being in my head thinking about all the negative things, and then I come out and I'm like, oh my goodness, I've done something really nice and I've sorted all my head out.
That's
so I really
beautiful.
Truly believe there's something therapeutic about it.
I honestly feel like I want to go back to my garden now and just get started, just put something in the ground.
Do it.
Yeah, it's that fear of like not being perfect, isn't it? But you just got to, like you say, go for it. And I love that you have your own 2 little children, and we've got a 1-year-old, he's just turned 1, and I would love to get him involved while I start as well. So you have a business called Seed Explorers, which I adore the name of. So can you talk a little bit about that and your inspiration behind it?
So I suppose my children, obviously, very much, when I started my journey, that was the beginning of their journey as well. And I think the moment I thought I'd nailed parenting was when my kids at the weekend, usually I give them like Cocoa Pops, a chocolate croissant, or, something really bad. And Winnie, my 4-year-old at the time, she's 7 now, but she said, Mummy, can I go into the garden and pick some peas? And I was like, oh my goodness, I have absolutely, this is great parenting. And they both will walk out into the garden with a basket, and I'll say, right girls, go and pick your dinner, and they will go out and pick their dinner. But then that inspired me to, I also worked at a school in Hayes, so as well as my day job, I also taught at a school, and it was in an area where most of the children didn't have gardens, so their space was the school garden. So I created a no-dig kitchen garden, and I would say that most of the children that I worked with had no idea and hated vegetables. So that was really, my first lesson was like, right, kids, who eats vegetables? Everyone's just like, disgusting, gross, no. And then, I said, so who eats crisps? Oh, the whole class.
Yeah, obviously.
Who eats chips? The whole class. And I was like, right, lesson 1, that is a potato. That's come from the ground and that's a vegetable. So, right, yes, you do eat vegetables. It's just how do we then connect that with processed foods?
Yeah.
So, from the 2 years that I did spend at the school turning and transforming the garden and watching these kids who wouldn't eat a green thing if it smacked them in the face, to picking broccoli, handing it to their friends, picking edible flowers, giving it to the teachers, and the kids would just be eating veg for fun, and that to me was amazing, which then sent me on to my journey of starting my own business. So I have a seed. It's called the Seed Explorers, and every single box is a box of growing magic. So you have all different vegetables, and every vegetable is a character, and the characters are all my family and friends. So they've all kind of been created around real people, and they all have a story and activity. So it's all about getting families to grow together and to understand the beauty of growing your own food. Colourful vegetables, great, we could all grow a lettuce, but why grow a green lettuce? Why not grow one that's, red or interesting, something different to engage children and to get them growing rather than, the same old thing. So that to me was really important. And I've, continued on that journey to try and get families to get growing.
So beautiful. So there is a big link between children wanting to eat vegetables and them growing them themselves. As like you said, it's about the growing process, and I've done this myself. I've created something myself.
Oh, absolutely. I think there's a massive sense of achievement when a child has nurtured that plant. And also it's not just educating in food, it's teaching patience, cognitive skills, that small picking up seeds and taking time and also then connecting with nature. Yeah. So my daughter Winnie, who's 7, now she'll see a spider and pick it up and loves the spider. Wow. She loves ladybirds because she knows that ladybird is so good for the garden and connects then with the rest of nature. And I think that also is a beautiful part of growing as well.
So many benefits. Why do you think it feels so good and nourishing to be close? Maybe that's like a really obvious question, I don't know, but why does it feel so good to be with nature?
I think it's because we're so obsessed with things now, you
and
know,
electronics.
Everything is like electronics.
Yeah.
It's, you know, you're on Instagram, and then I'm going to find one to talk because obviously I do Instagram, but you know, it's very much that things are everything, but nature is something you can't control. Yeah. It's always there, no matter what happens, no matter how much money you've got. Yeah. You can always go back to nature and have that time out and peace, and by putting a seed in the soil, that costs hardly anything, especially if you can collect the seed and grow that yourself. And it is a beautiful moment that costs nothing, but so is connecting.
Yeah, and also we are nature, aren't we?
Exactly.
So it brings us back to ourselves.
Yeah, totally.
And when you're scrolling on the gram, you feel, I mean, I don't know about everyone else in the audience, but you feel, you know, depleted after a while, and it's like an addiction, isn't it? But
and you're always looking at what everybody else, you know, is doing, what everybody else has. I mean, nature doesn't have that. It is just what it is. And
what about grounding? Do you ever sort of talk about or encourage bare feet on the earth? Is that something that you teach as well?
I suppose because I'm a gardener and I need to wear shoes most of the time. Yeah. But I have kind of, I mean, I'd like to learn more. I mean, I'm always open to learning more. And I think my children very much are out in the garden and very, very free. You know, we don't wear shoes out in the garden, and we're just, you know, we do take that time out. But
there's a beautiful documentary. I tell everyone about it if you're interested, called oh my god, the Grounding movie, and it's on YouTube. And they talk about all the scientific effects and benefits of just having your skin on the earth and how it's so healing, the qualities of the earth. So it all ties in, you know, with the gardening and how nourishing and healing it is just for your soul and your body. And and can you talk a little bit about you being a head chef at Raymond Blanc?
So I am the head tutor of the Raymond Blanc Gardening School. So that also was a really random journey because I had no qualifications to start off with, and I was obviously an air hostess for 20 years. And I went to Le Manoir, which is a 2 Michelin star hotel and restaurant created by the inspiring, probably one of the most inspiring humans I've ever met, Raymond Blanc. And just listening to his journey of how he started, he was very much self-taught like myself. And, you know, some people don't use these things as, you know, a throttle. You know, at the end of the day, you may be self-taught, but you can still achieve so much by educating yourself. You know, these so many people let it hold them back, but for me it was, I didn't do a degree, or I didn't do any kind of education. I'm currently studying a degree in environmental studies, and I've got my qualifications in horticulture, but that was through passion and having that feeling that I just wanted to learn more, which is something I've never had. At school I didn't want to learn. I was not interested in the academic stuff. I was like there smoking in the hedge somewhere.
Out in nature.
Out in nature. But so I just wasn't interested. But this is like a later on in life thing that I found the passion for educating myself. And then that's led me to now educating others, because I want people to feel like I do. So I host gardening schools throughout the year within our kitchen gardens. So we have 1.5 acres of kitchen gardens at Le Manoir, all organically grown produce. I did 3 years in the kitchen garden, learning how to grow, and then went on to get my qualifications. And now I work very closely with Raymond Blanc. We talk about produce, about his favourite varieties, and then guests come into the glass house for the day with me, and we grow all the vegetables. I teach you how to grow. We talk about the importance of soil, nutritional value. We'll have lunch together. And there's an array of different courses. So we go from grow your own vegetables, cut flowers, roses, pruning. So it's just a whole beautiful educational space with Raymond obviously very much at the heart of it.
Wow, you're just flying. It's so exciting. Can you talk about the transition, what it was like from leaving your job where you cried in the toilets many times? And I can relate to that because I had a job like that. And I was just in the toilet. I don't want to go out there and put on a smile, you know, because similar. The transition between that and then moving on to what you do now.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was I started growing, it was probably about 5 years ago. And slowly I was, you know, when I was an air hostess, I was just going all over the world, trying to find really nice bars to go for a drink, shopping, talking about hair and makeup, and very much that was the lifestyle I was living. And then slowly when I started learning about growing and getting passionate about it, my whole mind started changing and my whole personality started changing. And I think I noticed when I started getting on board when people were running away from me because all I wanted to do was talk about cabbages and courgettes. I was like, why am I sitting here on my own?
Oh, like just give me the champagne.
Yeah. So I kind of started using my job traveling all over the world rather than going to bars and getting my hair done to wanting to find gardens. It was an obsession. It was taking over my whole life. And again, educating myself, getting inspiration from all different gardens all over the world. And then I came to Le Manoir for lunch and literally got into the kitchen garden there and cried because I thought it was the most beautiful place. You know, you walk down the main path, the pathway is dripping with pumpkins, there's beans like tumbling all over the place, you know, it's a wash of edible colour. It's just incredible. And I'd had a couple of champagnes and thought, do you know what, I'm going to go and see if I can get a job here, why not? Brilliant. So I went up to reception and said, oh, can I come and work in the gardens? Obviously they don't give drunk people jobs because they're sensible and it's a 2 Michelin star restaurant, so off I went. And it was really weird. I don't know if you ever have this or if anybody has this, you know, when you're looking at on your phone and something pops up that you've been thinking it and suddenly it comes up on your phone and you're like, oh my goodness, is it tapping into my brain? So I woke up in San Fran, had no idea where I was in the world because every hotel room looked the same to me. And I Googled gardening jobs for some reason, and the first job that came up was a kitchen gardener at Le Manoir. And it was so weird. And I remember thinking, oh my goodness, like, this is meant to be. Yeah. So I went for the job, turned up like a full-on air hostess, as you do, because I didn't know what you wore as a gardener, like to turn up as a gardening for a job. And somehow I got the job. I had no qualifications, but what I did do was take a veg basket of everything that I'd grown in my garden. And probably like your kids, you know, you always think your kids are the most incredible, beautiful things in the world. And I thought my vegetables were, you know, look back and they were like the wonky veg section in Morrison's, you know, like everything was knobbly and gnarly and awful. So how it got me the job, I don't know, but I think they saw that I was passionate about it. And at the beginning I was flying at the weekends, working there midweek. And I really began to not enjoy flying, and I think it was the moment that I was taking my sister-in-law and my friend away with me to San Fran, and I thought, I don't want to go. And I remember phoning my dad, crying again. I'm quite an emotional person. And I was just like, I don't want to go. Like, I really don't want to go. And my dad said, well, don't
go.
And I was like, what? It just, this thought hadn't entered my head. I was like, oh, well, I can't not go. And he was like, well, of course you can, just leave. And that was it. It was like I needed someone to tell me, it's okay.
Give you permission.
You can move on. Yeah. You know, you've done this job all your life. It's the only thing you've ever wanted to do, but it's okay. And it was just like that. That moment, I put the fork down, phoned Virgin Atlantic and said, I'm not coming back, ever.
Bye.
And I never went back. I've never looked back, and I've never regretted that decision. And sometimes it was scary.
Yeah.
The most, you know, I had been sort of bubble wrapped by this industry that makes you believe that, you know, I suppose you're this lemming that wears this amazing bright red uniform and you look perfect and everything's perfect and you're so valued, which you're not really, you're just a number, but you know, you're brainwashed into thinking that what are you going to do outside of this thing. So leaving was really scary, and obviously a lifestyle of traveling the world and living in hotels and, you know, leading this fabulous lifestyle. But actually I look back and wish that I'd done it sooner. And sometimes it is just that moment that you need to get that push and take the plunge.
I bet that's super inspiring for lots of people here and everyone listening as well, because it's hard to follow your intuition sometimes when you have never been taught that in school. You know, you are taught to be a lemming, really, and fit inside a box and work for, you know, corporate world, make money. But, you know, there's that soul nudge that wants you to grow and expand. That's what we're here for, and live our truth and our purpose, which is what you're doing now. So thank you for sharing that. And coming back to the garden, because I would love to know, again, as a beginner, actually, what I'll ask first is, what is the difference between because we've got a local Sainsbury's, and that's where I go and get my fruit and veg and try and get organic where we can, but not always. So what's the difference between growing in your own garden, broccoli, courgettes, whatever it is, or going to the supermarket to get it? What are the main benefits?
I mean, I think you can definitely taste the difference.
Yeah.
There's, if you buy a carrot in any supermarket as opposed to maybe your local farm shop which has been bought locally, even if you buy organically in supermarkets, it still doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get that flavour, but the taste is mind-blowing, and especially when you've picked it out of the ground. So once you pick a vegetable, all the nutrients, the water and everything does start to deplete. If you're picking out of your garden, there is no better feeling and no better flavour. And also, if you're looking after your soil, you're going to get much more nutritional value out of your vegetables. But also, like, when you go to the supermarket, why does everything have to be wrapped in plastic? I look at my bin and I think, everything, like a broccoli, like who needs a broccoli wrapped in plastic?
It's true.
And the amount of carbon emissions from travelling all over the world, travelling all over the country. So you're reducing your emissions just by growing it yourself. Even a lettuce. So if you grew lettuce yourself and just that one thing alone, you would drastically reduce your carbon footprint by just that one movement. There is not, I don't know of any salad really that comes not wrapped. And actually it's the easiest thing to grow. You just literally pop a seed in, there you go, you've got a lettuce.
It's done, boom.
It is that easy. I think it's, there's so many things, and probably like you're looking at your patch thinking, how do I begin? Where do I start? Like, what do I do? And it is, the simplest thing is you put the seed in the ground, as long as it's the right time of year, and it will grow.
Right, so I am feeling like I need to come to one of your garden schools now. So please tell everyone, And also, because we've got our son, I'd love to do the family thing. It sounds just absolutely amazing. So can you please tell everyone about you and where we can find you, what you do, your Instagram, etc. Just plug away, please.
Yes. So I do have an Instagram platform where I share all my tips. And I mean, I used to do a hell of a lot more, but I do generally throughout the week, you'll be seeing what I'm growing, what I'm planting, what I'm sowing. And sometimes just that little sort of nudge can help you on your path. So my Instagram page is August Garden, and you can find all my links on there. So I also have my website, which you can find on my August Garden page, and also my second home is at Le Manoir Cat Saisons in Oxfordshire. So if you Google Belmond Le Manoir, you can see all the details of all the courses that I hold throughout the year, and we are 12 months of the year running the way through. So, and then obviously you can find me at lots of festivals throughout the country as well.
Yes, amazing. I absolutely love that chat. It could have gone on for a lot longer, but we had to pause it there. So thank you so much, August. And thank you to the audience for listening and watching, and have a great weekend.
Thank you for having me. Thank you very much.
Honestly unbalanced.